Hello everyone. All right, so we are going to go over the Unit 4 Part 2 review, but only certain problems. So if one of these problems is not what you're looking for an extended explanation for, then you need to stop the video and go over to the key that's posted in Google Classroom for today. So you need your review, you need pencils, correcting pens, whatever you're using, and a calculator. And again, we are only going over problems 7, 10, 11, 13, 14, and 15. You can find the answers, including all the steps, in the key that's posted on Google Classroom. So let's get started. All right. Okay, so to get started, we'll look at number 7. We are determining the missing dimension of the solid, and we're rounding our answer to the nearest tenth, and we can't forget to label. So we have a cylinder, and we know that volume of a cylinder is pi times the radius squared times the height. And we're given the volume, and we're given the diameter, but we can use diameter because if diameter is 8 centimeters, radius is half the diameter, so that means our radius is 4 centimeters. So we have our volume and our radius, and we can use those to figure out the height. So in place of the volume, I'm going to put 201 because that's the volume. Pi is pi, and our radius, as we came up with, is 4 squared. Okay, so now starting to work through, I know 4 squared is 16. Okay, now my goal is to get the h by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to start moving things. First, I'm going to move the 16 by division because right now it's multiplying to everything, so the inverse of that is division. Okay, and my calculator, so I have 201 divided by 16, and that equals 12.5625. And since it's a terminating decimal, I know it's more than a tenth, but I'm going to go ahead and just write all of that down. So 12.5625. Okay, and I've eliminated that 16, so now I'm left with pi times the height. Well, to get the h by itself, I am going to divide by pi on both sides. Okay. And 5625 divided by pi, 3.998. So if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, that second 9 tells me to give a shove to the first 9. Well, if I shove the first 9, that's going to take it up to a 10. So actually, I'm going to be changing, and the height is going to be about 4 centimeters. Okay, moving on to number 10, determining the radius of the sphere with this volume. Okay, so our volume is 32 over 3 pi yards cubed. Okay, so if our volume is this, okay, remember volume of a sphere is 4 times pi times the radius cubed divided by 3. Okay, well, we know our volume is that 32 over 3 pi. Okay. So we're using that information to get our radius value. The first thing that we are going to do is, instead of dividing by 3, we're going to eliminate that by multiplying by 3 on both sides. And when we do that, this would give us a 1 if we did all of the work, but we just know 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we're left with 32 pi. Same thing on this side, those 3's eliminate. And this comes out to be 4 times pi times the radius cubed. So now we've got rid of anything that looks like a fraction. And now we can start moving things to at least get the r cubed by itself. The first thing I'm going to move on this part now is the 4. So 4 is being multiplied to everything, so I'm going to divide everything by 4. Inverse operations, remember? Okay. There we go. All right, 32 divided by 4 is 8. And that means over here I'm left with pi times the radius cubed. Okay. Now I am going to divide both sides by pi so that I can get that r cubed all by itself. So divide by pi on both sides. So this gives me a 1, so I'm left with 8 on this side, and this gives me r cubed. Okay, so now I have r cubed. Reminder, to get the r by itself, we need to do the inverse. What's the inverse of cube? Cube root. So I need the cube root of 8, which is 2. And my label is yards. So the radius of this sphere is 2 yards. Moving on to number 11, determining the volume of the composite solid. So we are looking at 2 cones right here. So reminder, the formula for volume of a cone is pi times the radius squared times the height divided by 3. So it's the formula for cylinder, but then divided by 3. Okay, so I'm going to call this cone 1 and this cone 2, and then I know I need to add those pieces together. All right, so on cone 1, my radius is 4 centimeters, and my height is 5 centimeters. Okay, and on cone 2, it looks like my diameter is 10, so I would need to divide that in half. So my radius is 5 centimeters, and my height is 4 centimeters. All right, now I can get to the mathematics. So the volume of cone 1, pi times the radius squared, our radius is 4, times the height is 5, divided by 3. So pi, 4 squared is 16, times 5 divided by 3. Okay, and then now I am going to do the 16 times 5. So clear, 16 times 5 is 80. So pi times 80 divided by 3. Okay, and now I'm going to do the 80 divided by 3. So 80 divided by 3, 2.6667. So I'm going to go ahead and round to my nearest tenth and call this 26.7. Oops, I forgot my pi. Okay. All right. So clear, 26.7 times pi is 83.8. So that means, 83.88. So I am going to go ahead and say that this is 83.9. Okay, now on to the volume of cone 2. Right, so pi times our radius is 5, so 5 squared, times the height, which is 4, divided by 3. 5 squared is 25. Okay. 25 times 4 is 100. Okay. And 100 divided by 3 is 33.33333. So we can round to pi times 33.3 is 104.6. Okay, and when I add together 83.9 and 104.6, I get 188.5 cubic centimeters. So I've used a lot of space. Oh no, there's still plenty of room. So my total volume is 188.5, and then my label is centimeters cubed. Just don't forget the piece of adding those two together. Okay, number 13. A water cooler is in the shape of a cylinder, and it's got a diameter of 2 feet and a height of 3 feet. About how many gallons of water can the cooler contain? Round your answer to the nearest whole number. And this is telling me that 1 cubic foot of water is equal to 7.5 gallons. So 7.5 gallons is in 1 cubic foot of water. Good to know. Okay, so we're dealing with a cylinder. So volume of a cylinder is pi times the radius squared times the height. Okay, we know the diameter. So if the diameter is 2 feet, that means the radius is half of that. So radius is 1 foot. So pi, the radius is 1 foot, and our height is 3 feet. So pi, 1 squared is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So 3 times pi is 9.424. Okay, so we'll say leave the rounding, we'll take the 2. That means the 4 stays the same. So, 9.4. Okay, wrong button. All right, so the volume is 9.4, or about 9.4. Well, that's in cubic feet. We need the number of gallons, because that's what the question asked us. Number of gallons. So if 1 cubic foot is 7.5 gallons, 9.4 cubic feet, well, we just take that number and multiply it by 7.5. So 9.4 times 7.5 equals about 70.5. If we're rounding to the nearest whole number, that 5 tells us we need to give it a shove. So giving the 0 a shove comes out to about 71 gallons. Gallons is your label. All right, number 14. Now, number 14 probably sounded a lot harder than it actually is. The volume of a cone is cubic inches. What is the volume of a cylinder having the same base and same height? So we've got oh, you know what? This was supposed to be is 6 pi cubic inches. That's fun. All right. But that's okay because we're just going to explain. All right. So if we've got a cone, okay, that's got some radius and some height. We don't know what that is. But then if we've got a cylinder with the same base and same height, sorry, that's awkward. So that means the base is the same, has the same radius, and the height is the same height. So remember the connection between cylinders and cones? If the volume of the cone is a certain number of cubic inches, then the volume of the cylinder is 3 times the volume of the cone. Because remember, for a cone, you take the volume of the cylinder and then you divide it by 3. So if you're getting the volume of the cylinder, you're multiplying that by 3. Crazy. All right, last problem. A juice can is in the shape of a cylinder with a diameter of 4 inches. Okay, cylinder, diameter of 4 inches. It has a volume of 125 cubic inches. What's the height of the can? Round your answer to the nearest whole number. Okay, so it's a cylinder, so pi times the radius squared times the height. We know diameter is 4 inches, so radius is half of that, so our radius is 2 inches. And here's our volume. So volume equals pi times the radius squared times the height, which is what we're trying to find out. So 125 times equals pi. 2 squared is 4 times the height. Okay. So now I am going to divide both sides by 4. Sorry, squashing that in there. So 125 divided by 4 is 31.25. And that is equal to pi times height. Now to get the height all by itself, dividing both sides by pi. .994. So that 9.9, we're rounding to the nearest whole number, which means our height is about 10 inches. That is a really tall juice can. Okay. All right. So there you go for those that I was considering the most challenging. Please let me know if you've got any other questions. Don't forget there will be a Google Meet tomorrow. So during a couple of different times during the day, so you can hop on and you can ask me questions if you have any. Have a great day.